Alirio Games, a migrant from Central America, has been living undocumented in Austin, Texas for 8 years. The US migration authorities are well aware of his presence, and despite multiple deportation orders filed against him over the years, he's still here.
En El Salvador muere mucha gente día a día y eso pues para nosotros es bien terrible eso, vivir esa situación. Cuando las personas regresan de aquí al país, pues lo que temen es perder la vida. Entonces, como todo ser humano, tenemos un instinto que los hace cuidar nuestra vida.
Alirio has been able to avoid forced removal and remain in the United States because he has sought sanctuary. More specifically, he has been living for the past 5 years inside a church.
Fue que el 8 de agosto del 2017 yo tomé santuario en la iglesia de aquí del centro de Austin, Texas. Desde entonces estoy ahí, aún de entrar y encerrarse en una iglesia para no regresar a su país, es una situación bien difícil.
Sunset on the tough streets of El Salvador's capital, where, in the notorious 22 de Abril neighborhood, soldiers are on patrol. Anyone can be stopped and searched, their IDs checked, and the contents of their cell phones inspected. This is part of El Salvador's plan to stop gang violence.
Se ha visto mucho cambio, ya hay mucha seguridad, hay bastante frecuencia de policía, soldados, entonces ya bastante seguro para poder acompañar a nuestros hijos aquí a su deportes, pues.
Since 2022, this countrywide crackdown has seen more than 64,000 alleged gangsters detained and security improved. For local residents like Luis Melgar, it's a total change.
Era violento. Sí, ahora está bien tranquilo. Los niños juegan allá afuera, hay más respeto para los ancianos y eso es muy importante. Antes no había nada de eso.
Some residents can now stay in the parks at night.
Hoy podemos andar con libertad y antes siempre andábamos con miedo. No salíamos, al menos yo no salía con mis hijos ni mi esposo, pero hoy gracias a Dios aquí estamos, divirtiéndonos un momento.
Que antes no existía esto, cosas buenas, pues bonitas. Que digamos el ambiente es distinto y se siente paz en el sistema que hay seguridad, pues. Y se ve que ha habido un buen cambio. El ambiente es bien agradable ahora, no se siente opresión que los vayan a estar ahí controlando a uno.
Muchos de ellos afectados.
Public Security Minister Gustavo Villatoro says the emergency measures have put a swift end to organized crime, which has terrorized his country for decades.
No vamos a tolerar a ninguna estructura que amenace y obligue, coaccione o extorsione a alguien para que deje o haga algo. Ya estamos cansados y nuestra sociedad está cansada de vivir sometida a grupos criminales que los $10 o $5 que ganaban el día, casi que la mitad tenía que entregárselos a estos terroristas. Eso es lo que ya no vamos a permitir.
With the gangsters off the streets, El Salvador now faces the problem of what to do with the tens of thousands of alleged criminals now in state custody. The sanctuary movement in the United States has a history going back decades. Tim Isaacson is the president of Immigrant Hope, an organisation seeking to help undocumented migrants in the US.
The first sanctuary movements that came up in the 1980s as people were crossing to try to have help for them. People would know that they could hide in a church because the church would give them sanctuary because the government wouldn't go into those places, they wouldn't cross that line.
At its peak, more than 500 congregations from numerous faiths across the US protected migrants from migration authorities. It appears to work. US migration enforcement policy prevents arrests being made in or around designated protected areas, which include schools, healthcare facilities, and vitally, places of worship.
Churches have really stepped forward in any number of ways. Most will reach out to a church at some point and be guided into, a sort of a network. Oh, here's a place that has folks, or oh, there may be another, you have to go over here, that they may have a room or a place available for you. People have been really stepping up in some pretty amazing ways in a human-to-human sense that gives you hope, because the system is inhuman and inhumane.
Congregations who agree to shelter migrants have modified their buildings to provide living quarters to those who seek sanctuary, paying for the modifications through private donations. In this church in Austin, Texas, Carmen Subieta is the sanctuary director.
Soy migrante. Conozco el dolor de lo que es ser inmigrante en este país y ser indocumentado. Entonces, por eso es mi pasión y mi necesidad de no solo levantar la voz, sino también de ayudar a otros a que levanten su voz frente a las injusticias, frente a la tortura, frente al dolor, frente a la inseguridad diaria.
Carmen has not settled for simply raising her voice. She has led this church to offer sanctuary to undocumented migrants who today live in the installation.
Empezó con una mujer inmigrante, una mujer guatemalteca.
Hilda Ramirez, an immigrant from San Marcos in western Guatemala, has been in the US since 2014. She entered the country undocumented with her 6-year-old son, and after being arrested on an immigration infraction, spent 2 years battling her case to remain in the country. When the Court of Appeal finally dismissed her case and served her with a definitive removal order, she had no other option.
El 2016, el primero del 2016, yo era parte de esa deportación y yo estaba muy triste porque no sabía qué hacer. Me dijeron que en cualquier momento migración iba a llegar por mí y yo estaba con mucho miedo. Y supe que en las iglesias migración no se puede entrar, entonces me vine a la iglesia.
Hilda tenía un grillete en su pie. Entonces, pues es un monitor donde está, para verla, para vigilarla donde está. Entonces decidieron abrir la puerta de esta iglesia.
For more than 6 years, Hilda has been a voluntary prisoner inside her sanctuary.
Nunca me imaginé que iba a tomar muchísimos años. Pues no salgo del edificio, no salgo de la iglesia, solo aquí camino todo. Es algo que tu mente, entre más te encierras adentro, como que más miedo tienes. O sea, quiero vivir una vida, pero como que mi mente ya está como que todo me da miedo y siempre ando mirando a la ventana, siempre estoy así. Entonces, estar encerrado como que eso te causa problemas psicológicos.
Hilda is not alone. Indeed, it's estimated some 500 undocumented migrants, all of them under deportation orders, are currently living in church sanctuary across the United States. Paula Chavarro is an immigration attorney based in Atlanta, Georgia. She says while many migrants have sought this route, it makes little difference to their judicial process.
In my experience, I've seen a lot of them looking for sanctuary when there are no other means to keep them here. They have exhausted all the appeals, there's nothing they can do, and that's why they're just trying to stay in churches so they are not physically deported.
For those seeking the sanctuary method to remain, most continue to fight their cases from the safety of churches, but proving that a return to their home country would mean violence, as Hilda argues would happen, is almost impossible.
It could be that they apply for something called withholding of removal if they can prove that their lives are in danger if they go back. And very often it's difficult to prove in court. that somebody is very likely to be in danger. The standard is high. The asylum standard is very high, and the withholding standard is a little higher. So it's not easy to win a withholding case.
Hilda's sanctuary inside this church has become well known, given the sharing of her story with the local and international media. And while she has received messages of support from the local community, there are others who have terrorized her.
Todo ahora que soy público, ellos me atacan, ellos me han amenazado, ellos me han tratado de sacar dinero. Y algunos racistas han venido a atacar la iglesia, han venido aquí a tratar de quemar la yarda de la iglesia. Es horrible.
However, despite the issues she has faced, she says life in sanctuary is preferable to the alternative. Hilda says a return to her hometown in Guatemala would mean death.
Y tengo mucho miedo de que un día migración nos separen, a mí me deportan y me pase algo allá. Por ejemplo, allá hay mucha violencia doméstica, las mujeres las matan, hay muchos delincuentes y el gobierno no ha hecho nada y no sé qué pasaría. No quiero imaginármelo porque soy pública, porque he dicho cosas que no están bien, entonces he dicho cosas de mi país.
In the end, most undocumented migrants who seek sanctuary in churches see no change to their migratory appeals. For Hilda, it's a situation which will see her imprisoned for as long as the church will allow her.
Hay días que pienso que quisiera irme y salir de la iglesia, pero a veces me da miedo. A veces me da miedo porque no tengo nada legal, no tengo documentos, nada. Quedar aquí y seguir luchando hasta que logre algo. Y pues de alguna manera no tengo nada, no sé. Estoy, como dice el dicho, entre la espada y la pared. Son difíciles.
Western Guatemala and the rolling hills of San Marcos department, Hilda's hometown. A region struggling with worsening violence, road blockades and police confrontations are a common occurrence. Wilber Coyoye is a journalist covering this region for the national media.
En San Marcos propiamente la seguridad pues es muy limitada. Cuando hablamos de inseguridad nos referimos muchas veces a asaltos en las distintas zonas que han sido declaradas como rojas y también muertes precisamente por ataques armados. Es por parte de la misma inseguridad que se viven los conflictos que se tienen hoy en día de manera interna entre comunidades. Es ajeno totalmente al gobierno, que es lo que se pelea aquí, límites de territorio, pertenencia de tierras, y que esto ha dejado también muchas muertes, especialmente en el altiplano de San Marcos, y que es donde se trata pues de buscar mejor una oportunidad en lo que es Estados Unidos.
Migration is common from this region, and undocumented migrants will go to extremes not to return. For locals like Erwin Garcia, it's a sad state of affairs.
Es un sector bastante difícil en cuanto a la seguridad en algún momento, porque tenemos muchas personas que son de familias disfuncionales. Eso los obliga a ir de un lugar a otro y a probar vicios. Por esa razón prefieren estar encerrados, en este caso, en una iglesia y no regresar a su país. Si uno logra averiguar, muchos de ellos tienen antecedentes, pero los que vivimos aquí en nuestro país, honradamente, con nuestro trabajo, con nuestros esfuerzos, administrando los recursos, poco o mucho que tengamos, Guatemala es un país libre, un país hermoso.
Hilda's case is well known in this region and, in general, elicits little sympathy.
Creo que lo primero que debiera hacer es sincerarse con ella misma. Yo le diría que hay otros lugares en Guatemala donde ella podría estar también, porque no está viviendo. Ella no está viviendo, ella está sufriendo, porque no es algo agradable estar encerrado en las paredes. No tiene vida, y la vida hay que disfrutarla, porque es tan efímera que se escapa como un segundo que se nos acaba de ir.
Despite the advice of her own countrymen, Hilda is determined to remain inside her church, a victim of her own self-imprisonment. While Ilda goes through the purgatory of life in sanctuary, she has a strong reason to do so: her son.
I can't feel like an American because I know, like, from my brain that I'm an immigrant.
Ivan arrived to the US with her at the age of 6 and has been with her throughout. As a minor, he was granted a US humanitarian visa to remain in the country under the Obama administration's DACA program, and today he attends a public high school in Austin.
No, I don't think a lot of people know that I live in the church. And, you know, I'm kind of proud of being who I am, like immigrant, or being from Guatemala, having a culture, and not being like same as other people. I'm kind of proud of that. So, like, I'm okay not being an American.
For Ivan, his mother's sacrifice has permitted him a more optimistic future than the one he would have had in Guatemala.
I really want to try finishing my school and going to college, because that's one of the reasons I'm here, me and my mom's here, because like school is one of the opportunities you really get in the United States.
For those sympathetic to the migrant cause, the sanctuary movement has been a beacon of hope in a murky immigration debate.
When the church steps up and uses its warm heart and its organizational abilities, and they build something that's pretty impressive like that, then it gives me lots of hope, and because I know other people can do it.
For Ivan, when he emerges from the sanctuary of the church and into adulthood, his mother's sacrifice will have changed his life for the better.
Yeah, I probably do work harder than a lot of my classmates, because sometimes I see that they are not really trying to focus on doing their work. They're like passing time on their phone or just not listening and doing those things, and me trying to take notes, trying to pay attention, and always trying to do my best, because I always have in my mind that my mom took this chance, took this part of her life to give me the best, so I try to like do my best.